Let's be honest, if you're watching this video and you clicked on the title and you know you're Gemini Rising and you're trying to figure out how to make money, I'm not going to waste your time spending this whole hour walking you through all these different things that you need to do. We're just going to get straight to the point because that's what you need to actually make transformation in your life. My name is Brenna. I'm a human design reader and astrologer of 9.5 years, teaching you how to practically integrate all of the aspects of your human design chart and your astrology to make real changes in your real world in real time, and using this video, your bank account as well. So let's get into how you can make money as Gemini Rising. Now, two things, right? We're going to look at your chart ruler, and then we're also going to look at your second house. Now, I'm going to prioritize using whole sign, which means that whatever your rising sign is, so as a Gemini rising, this means that the entirety of your first house is in Gemini. That's the first thing we're going to look at. The second house for you, right? The second house that we're prioritizing is also going to be ruled by Cancer. Now, a couple things. A lot of people ask me, well, what if I have placements there? What if I don't have placements there? It doesn't matter whether or not you have planets or asteroids or any aspects in your second house. We're going to use that energy to give us some other clear-cut indicators as to other places that we should be looking for you and understanding how you need to make money in a more aligned way to actually build legacy and wealth for you as well. Now, for me personally, if you are a little bit more intermediate to expert level at astrology, I would look at Placidus as kind of a follow-up guide, especially if you have a very early degree or late degree rising. This is going to shift the energy of where your first house is or where Gemini is in your chart. Just pay attention to that. Now, the first place to look when we're talking about making money is your second house. And for Gemini risings, your second house is in Cancer, which is all about nourishment in any way that makes sense for you. So what I often say to my clients is that when we're working for wealth building, when I'm mentoring people in my 1 hour sessions, we're talking about what's going to be most sustainable. And a lot of the times it's the right idea, but the wrong execution for how you went about trying to make money. Now, say you're somebody that's a Gemini rising with a second house in Cancer and you love to cook and bake and you want to own a bakery. That's great, but maybe you tell yourself that you can't do that. There's like other reasons why you should do things that are more practical. You don't know how to start. So then you become a social worker and you get super burnt out. Maybe you're a nurse or a nurse practitioner, something along those lines. You just feel like you're misplacing your energy in the wrong way that isn't really appropriate, right? So it's the right idea, but the wrong execution. You come home, you're super burnt out at night. You feel like you can't get your priorities straight. But when you come home, you still end up baking all the cakes and the cupcakes and the cake pops for everyone's birthday party. You just do it for a labor of love. And you don't realize that that could actually be turned into a profitable business if you had the right structures in place. So knowing that whatever the desires are that are on your heart are there for a reason is super important, especially when it comes to nourishment at its core. Cancers are also really good, or Cancer second house placements are really good at taking care of a community or just community development in any way, shape, or form. So who is your community? Identifying the community that you like to support. This is what we also call in marketing your ideal client avatar. Just having an idea or an archetype for what community you want to serve or be responsible for in some capacity, and healthy boundaries. We want to learn that as a Cancer second house is going to be really important for you too. Now, if you don't have any planets here, this is where this next step is really going to come into play, and it's important for you to pay attention to. The moon is the planetary ruler or celestial body that rules over Cancer. So in order for your career to be emotionally stabilizing, to really pour into what feels good for you as an individual, you want to look at what house your moon sign is in and what sign it actually is. So for me, I'm a Scorpio moon, right? I would be paying attention to, if I was a Gemini rising, where my moon sign is and what it's doing. Maybe it ends up being in the second house in Cancer. And then we would go the extra level of making sure that our job is emotionally fulfilling and setting up a values exercise for what do you actually classify as emotional fulfillment, right? That is my second tip, my good ultimate tip for second house placements, is to really make a top 3 to top 5 values for what you need out of your career. And then we start to refine. Are you somebody who really likes to have a 9 to 5 structure and schedule so that you can enjoy working during the daytime hours and then having your evening time with your family? Are you somebody that enjoys time flexibility and time freedom? Are you somebody that prefers to be able to be more analytical rather than hyper emotional? If you're an Aquarius moon, for example, if you're a Libra moon, maybe you want to cultivate a little bit more balance. This is going to be really important for you to know. The second thing we're going to look at is what your Mercury sign is doing, because Gemini risings, your planetary ruler, the planet that really is controlling all the energies of your chart is Mercury. Mercury rules over Gemini. So where is your Mercury and what's happening there, right? I'm going to show you a couple different examples of successful Gemini risings in a second, because I want you to pay attention to two things: the physicality of what their body is doing and how they use their words when they're talking, right? Their they're emotionally connected to their words, moon sign in the second house, or the moon ruling over their second house, plus Mercury being your chart ruler, right? We have that beautiful interplay of being incredibly emotional, but also being incredibly communicative. And what's really interesting about that, and where we notice that sometimes Gemini placements get the judgment that they're two-faced, is because you guys are really playing to understanding what emotional needs are most present with the people that are in front of you at any given time. So you're incredibly mutable. Gemini is a mutable sign where you pour into the people that you're with at that given time for whatever it is that they need. And you know that life is not a one size fits all methodology. So communicating that to your people and changing, being of service to a community, but knowing that you're going to tweak the orders, if we're going with the same bakery analogy or metaphor, we're tweaking the recipe for what everyone wants. Maybe we always make cakes, but maybe somebody is allergic to chocolate, so they need a strawberry shortcake, or maybe somebody likes lemon, maybe somebody likes pistachio and rose. There's a variety based on the people that are within your community, but you're also serving a community under the same umbrella of one specific thing. And that is what I call your North Star. So identifying what your North Star is something that is kind of like a part two to your values exercise. What is the thing that you keep coming back to again and again for how you want to be of service using your voice and your emotions, right? And making it emotionally stabilizing for you is going to be really important. And the reason I keep mentioning stability so much is because there's also an interplay between your second house and your eighth house. And we have Cancer as your second house, as I mentioned quite a few times up until this point, but then Capricorn that sits across from it. Capricorn's ruler is Saturn, and Capricorn is like the disciplinarian, the father archetype, the HBIC that gets our act together, that helps us to balance our emotions with taking things on a non-emotional place, right? And that's where your long-term legacy, your goals, that interplay of those two, your eighth house sits across from your second house, is how you are going to create abundance that's actually lasting and repeat clients. So if you are somebody that wants to be making cakes for people for a living, you want to make sure that you have structures and plans in place, guidelines, contracts that you use, a deposit that you take up front to make sure that you're not shelling out money for a bunch of supplies, right? Not hemorrhaging money out of your bank account is also something you want to pay attention to. You want to make some long-term, slow and steady wins the race investments as a Cancer second house person. That's also going to be really important for setting future you up for success, and also having those guidelines and boundaries for knowing like it's neutral information. Capricorn doesn't care as much about our emotions involved, but it does make sure that we are emotionally, mentally, spiritually secure when we do have those boundaries in place, and we can shake our hand with our clients and say, this is the agreed upon contract, the agreed upon agreement. You can use things like DocuSign that are going to be really important. Dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and not just doing things based on a handshake, is really what's important for Gemini Risings, Cancer second house people. So 3 people that I really wanted to mention that are famous Gemini Risings that have built an incredible legacy and wealth are Kendrick Lamar, Lady Gaga, and Drew Barrymore. And I'm actually going to start with Drew Barrymore first, because when we're looking at her Gemini Rising, right, she's an actress, but most importantly, or most recently, she has a talk show, and pretty much everybody has seen her talk show all over TikTok, all over social media, all over YouTube.
And I felt like just an immediate connection, and like the press walls kind of dropped, and then it was just like a human moment. Oh, I've been waiting to talk to you so much.
Where she's getting very comfortable. Cancer second house is about creating a comfortable environment. She's very comfortable with her people. She's with them. She's, holding their hand. She's very leaned in, listening to their words intently, and a really good repeater, or just kind of like allowing a person to let them know that she hears them fully with whatever it is that she's saying. She's a really good example of how she puts her Mercury ruled Gemini rising placement in connection with her Cancer, moon ruled second house. It's that blend of her words being tied to her emotions. And even we see, when she was younger and more in the acting realm, where that's worked out for her, and she's created a legacy, right? Now, of course, she was born into that field. I believe it was her grandfather that was a Barrymore that was like pretty prominent in the film industry, but you can see how she's taken and, what the platform she's been given and really being able to run with it. Now, what you also notice, or when we move into our second example of Gemini rising, is Kendrick Lamar and the incredible activist that he is, using his words to speak on social justice, on race issues, on any kind of disharmony that we see in our environment. You know, as a musician, using his words, it's a creative modality where he's being on the nose while also being able to say, well, it's just a song, right? It's just music, right? And being able to play both sides as a true Gemini rising does, right? Being able to see both hands. That are stirring both pots simultaneously, but in a necessary way to say, hey, we kind of need to wake up and look at what's happening here in our environment. He's a great example of that. Also helping kids in Compton in the school systems. He did that under Obama's presidency, and really being able to support kids financially, right? Causes of the heart, cancer, again, is very nurturing, very motherly, supporting children, funding programs for children, that are in underprivileged, underserved communities, or where there's a lack of budgeting allocation in schools right now. Pretty much all of our public schools, no matter where we are in the US, right? Really paying attention to that. We can see that written throughout his career.
Records are a gift for me because I'm not only a voice for myself, but I'm a voice for people who can't express themselves like that.
Last but not least is Lady Gaga. Obviously, I love her. I think if you guys have seen 5'2", her documentary on Netflix, or just know, her kind of lore up until this point, it just shows how incredibly driven and devoted she is to making sure that she gets what she needs to get done. And I think there also is some questions as to whether or not she is a Gemini rising. I really see it in her features, especially. I always notice Gemini risings have this beautiful kind of like elven fairy like quality to them, and her being super petite is just like, the icing on the cake. Baking vocabulary through this video, we just noticed that about her personality and how she's diversified into things that take care of the physical body, like having a really wide array of foundation colors for House Labs Beauty, her makeup line, always being very much so about the physicality of the body, right? What she does, how she dresses, really expressing herself through what she adorns her physical vessel with is also a very second house Cancer thing to do.
I spend hours and hours a day in the studio. I'm a producer, I'm a writer. What I do is different. I don't let anyone control me because I want to be in control. I don't let anyone control me because I don't want anyone to control anyone. Nobody takes care of you better than you do.
Yeah.
You gotta look for yourself and take a peek under the hood.
I also encourage you guys to maybe come up with some kind of embodied uniform. Maybe there's 5 outfits that you can pick out from things you have in your closet that feel the most like you and who you want to be, especially after you create that North Star for yourself. So now that we've broken down those key aspects of what you can do to make wealth or make money for what's going to be aligned for you in career as a second house, I'm going to give you a little checklist so that you can leave this video knowing that if you had nothing else but this checklist, you know what your next steps are to get clarity on what it is that you're supposed to be doing. Break down in order the key things that I'm going to teach you to do. This is our beautiful little checklist. The first thing you're going to do is look at what is your Mercury sign. Do you have an Aquarius Mercury? So you speak very methodical, a little bit ethereal, like you're detached, but very able to pinpoint exactly what people are going through. Are you a Scorpio Mercury that speaks with a little bit more intensity and can really see and peel back the layers of the onion that is a person that is in front of you and your community? Are you like me and your Mercury is retrograde in your natal chart, so you have a little bit of a unique spin on the way that you communicate and you speak very fast, right? That is also a retrograde Mercury natally aspect. That's the first thing you're going to look at. Then you're going to look at what your moon sign is doing. Your moon is your ruler of your second house in Cancer. So what sign is that in? Are you somebody that's an Aries moon whose mood fluctuates pretty quickly and you shift every single day? You feel like a different person. How do we capture that lightning in a bottle? Are you a Sagittarius moon that needs a lot of freedom in your job, a lot of flexibility? That's also something that you're going to pay attention to. If you guys have any questions about what are some descriptors for your Mercury or your moon, just drop a comment with what yours are in the comments below. I'd be happy to help you. The next thing you're going to do is look at what your values are. And I want you to write just the top 3 or top 5 things that off the cuff, right? When you rip off the Band-Aid and really get serious with yourself, you say, well, if I were to only pick 5 things or 3 things that I stand by in my career that I know in my heart of hearts are going to make me satisfied unapologetically, what are those things? And then after that, I want you to write 3 to 5 sentences about what it is that you know your career is destined to be. What are the things that you could do if money weren't an issue and that you could snap your fingers and have that dream career tomorrow? That's going to be really important. And if you want to share that little tidbit or excerpt, you can also drop that in the comments and I'd be happy to workshop what step number 5 is for you, which is one step that you could take right now after you finish this video that you can do to make sure your dreams become a reality? Is it merely just starting the checklist? Is it looking at Lady Gaga and watching 5'2" on Netflix and saying, you know what, I want to finally go after my singing career. I deserve that. Who are people in my orbit that I know? I'm very good at thinking strategically and helping you with strategy, but since I'm a manifesting generator in human design, I need something to respond to. I want to be able to help you guys. I'm not just speaking into the void and making this seem like all sunshines and rainbows. I love getting it down in the trenches with you guys, nitty gritty, to actually make sustainable changes or practical changes for what it is that you need to do. That needs to be your next step. So if you've watched this video and you're stuck on step number 5 as to what your next step should be, just let me know anywhere you feel any roadblocks. But I know I've given you a lot of information in a short period of time that will give your Mercury ruled placement a lot to mull over. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you have a different rising sign and want me to make a video for you, I will prioritize that as well. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the next one.